Hello, my name is Dale Wilhite. I'm right now in Grand Junction, Colorado for the weekend. If you want to find anything about me, go to MySpace, Facebook, or Twitter where I have accounts. This here is about an end-time Bible prophecy that I thought might be of interest to a few people. It's one that it's a prophecy that can be found in 1 Timothy chapter 4, and actually the third verse, which is a prophecy about when a time will come on the earth when people will be forbidden to marry and where people will be commanded to abstain from meat. I've often wondered, how can you stop marriages? Uh, I think that basically it's going to stop itself. I believe we're living in a time where people are just more and more people just want to live together. They don't want to marry. I can't go anywhere anymore, uh, no matter what state I go to, no matter what community I live in, where I don't find a large number of people, couples, living together outside of marriage. When I lived in Telluride, a great number of people there just lived together, and very few were married. And I think marriage will just not so much be outlawed. I think it's just going to become a something of the past. People say, well, it's a biblical thing that we don't really need to get married. It's something that comes from above, and we don't recognize the person above anymore. So we shall just live together. And it's amazing that some of the people I've met that are living together, men and women, have been living together probably 30, 40 years, and they plan to never marry whatsoever. I don't know why, but they don't. They just don't feel like it. Of course, some people don't marry for economic reasons. When you get married, unfortunately, the Democrats in America have made it your taxes a little bit higher when you get married, and it's like a marriage tax, and that's something Republicans have been trying to end. I think they did at least for a while. I don't know if it's about to expire. I haven't really checked on it lately, but it's a bad idea, and so you're being penalized for getting married. But then again, Gloria Steinem, who I think eventually got married, once said that any woman who gets married is nothing more than a prostitute, and so I'm sure there are women out there that believe the same thing. But how they how marriage itself will be outlawed, I don't know. But I think what's going to really happen is it's going to be phased out, and people just are going to say we don't really need it anymore. I mean, it's old, it's barbaric. It's something from the ancient times when women were subservient to men, or slaves to men, things like that. And I think it'll be just a cultural thing. Of course, now the ACLU did at least one time try to ban marriage or suggest it because homosexuals were not allowed to marry. And in one town in Oregon, there was a town that outlawed marriage, basically just stating that really that they weren't going to issue any more marriage license unless homosexuals were allowed to marry. I don't know what went with that, and of course people want to get married in that town, just go somewhere else and get a marriage license. So, but since America is becoming more and more carnally minded, and as we enter the last days before the coming of the Antichrist, you're going to see marriage take a beating pretty bad, at least here in the West. As far as commanding not to eat meat, well, that could come very simply by tainted meat. We always hear of these meat processing plants, are not very sanitary. And our government one day, especially with Obama in the White House, could just come up a long way one day and say, okay, we're shutting them all down. It may put hundreds of thousands of millions of people out of work. The steakhouses have to close down. The McDonald's has to close down. All meat restaurants and grocery stores that sell meat are just not going to be able to sell anymore. It's no good. It's tainted. It's deadly. That could happen one day. It could be a sudden thing, or it could be a gradual thing. That's the only way I can see they could stop meat. But I also believe that the animal rights activists, the extremist ones, continue their push to ban people from eating meat, even animals eating meat, like dog food. That's going to have an effect because more and more people are doing just that, just becoming vegetarian. And personally, to me, if a person wants to be a vegetarian, that's their business. So I think the right to eat meat is definitely under attack, and it's going to get really bad eventually. But I think the real thing that will outlaw it pretty much will be the government clamping down on meat processing plants, packing plants, whatever, and forbidding the sale of meat. And they'll claim, well, it's tainted, it's no good for us. And of course, regulations can, the tighter the regulations get, the more the government can get control of such things. And that may be as it comes, because just as we are now witnessing the 60 hippies, who smoke dope and stuff like that, trying to legalize it, you're also seeing people from certain eras of the 60s, 70s, and 80s who don't believe that people have the right to eat meat, who are now making their way into the government, to the judiciary, and into television commentators, entertainers, and so forth, and they will have a direct impact on such things. So what may seem today to be an impossibility, it's just impossible for the government or for anyone to stop and put McDonald's out of business or Burger King or these steak homes, these steakhouses. The grocery stores would make a good profit if they didn't sell meat, and having to sell apples and oranges, and you can't sell pork chops and steak. That's just hamburger meat. That's just not going to happen. Well, probably today it could not happen, but gradually it could eventually work its way to that point. And I think the final outcome will be when the government shuts them down again for tainted meat or claiming, that it's just not safe to eat anymore or something like that. I still think it'll be something made up, to get people to make them have fear of eating meat. It doesn't take much, and you can make people be afraid, to eat something. Remember Jaws when that movie put so much fear to a lot of people. That summer when Jaws came out, the beaches around America didn't do so well. A lot of people didn't want to get in the water anymore. They were terrified of something they saw on a movie screen. So it can happen. I don't think it happened today, but it's going to happen in the future. And we are going to see a time when marriages will just no longer be. And we may wake up one day and McDonald's and Burger King and Kentucky Fried Chicken are all out of business. There's a war against these franchises anyhow, and it's growing. I also think the final, or what's going to also be added into the ending up eating meat or commanding not to eat meat will be the obesity thing, where people are just getting too fat because they eat too much, fat foods, and hamburgers and chicken and things like that. And that could be the other thing that the government might claim. And with Obama in the White House, that's quite possible. Their intentions might be good, but it may not. But but it's going to be hard to know if they're really being honest, especially when it comes to the government. I don't care who's in power. You can't trust these people. So we are going to eventually arrive at a time when eating meat is going to be outlawed. Or they're just going to command not to eat meat, and it's not maybe politically correct to eat meat. Maybe it's not politically correct to be married. Who knows? But we're getting there, and it ain't far away. Thank you for your time, and I just wanted to enlighten you a little bit on something, and you'll have to come to your own conclusions. There's no other way.